Hey everyone, welcome to Home Cooking with Foodland. We're so excited to have everyone here with us this afternoon or this evening. I hope that for those of you that were with us last week, everyone made crab artichoke dip and kamaboko dip and just like went for it. I partook of what we made and I'm feeling it right now. I got to run some more to kind of like work it off, but it was worth it. It was really good. Um, this week we're gonna do a really fun dish, and it kind of actually builds on. This could also work for sort of an appetizer or a football theme, or as we're evolving into the holiday season, this is another dish that could work really well for, a a small get together, or you could make it like make one and give it to someone for them to enjoy at home. So we're gonna get into that. If you have questions, please don't forget to use the Q&A function in the Zoom app. And just as a reminder, right, we're changing our scheduling starting this month, October, right? So we're gonna go first and third Wednesday of every month. So this is the first one of October. We'll be back on the 19th, correct?
21st.
Sorry, 21st, the 21st, Wednesday the 21st. So not next week, but the week after. First and third Wednesday of every month. So we'll see you guys the week after next week. And as I'm thinking about the timing, I'm gonna really start wanting to move into like holiday things that you guys can do for whether it's Thanksgiving or just the holiday season. I think it's a great time to kind of do some of those dishes. And so without further ado, we'll jump into this week's class. And I did want to start, the inspiration point for what we're making, the lettuce wraps, is really, it started with the ingredient. And one of the things I'm really excited about that we're offering in our stores now is greens that are coming from Lanai, and it's coming from Sensei Farms, and I want to show it to you guys here right now. So this is one of the items we have. This is what we're using tonight is the crystal lettuce, which is similar to like a green leaf. And then the other one I wanted to show you, there's another variety. There's three we're selling, but the other one I did pick up was their Lanai mix. And as you can see, it's a combination of the three greens that they actually offer. So there's some red leaf, there's some of the crystal lettuce, and where is it here? It looks like kind of like a butter lettuce here, which is really, really delicious. The cool thing about the product here is hydroponically grown. And the thing about it is, besides hydroponically grown, and it's delicious and fresh, is they're really thinking about the environment. So they're using the sun, it's solar panels, solar powered farm. And even though it's hydroponic, they're using actually 90% less water than is typically used to grow hydroponic greens. And so really, really amazing from an environmental perspective and a conservation perspective, but really the proof is in the pudding on the product. It's delicious, it's fresh, it's very, very vibrant. And so something I think you should take a look at in our stores, okay? Really nice stuff. So the inspiration was the crystal lettuce, and they're nice flat leaves, and they're perfect for making a wrap. And so we're gonna be making wraps today. So I thought we'd start with kind of the garnishes. We'll start with the garnishes, and then we'll do the mise en place for actually the beef stir fry, and then we'll bring it all together, okay? So I'm gonna start with radishes, and we, as a garnish, and these are, we love to support local, and so shout out to Gary Mauna Kea IV, who runs Ma'o Organic Farms, and so we're using their radishes here today. And I'm just gonna take some of these off here. We're gonna cut them up. These would be really good too if you just took them, put them a little salt and just eat them like that. Maybe a little bit of mayo if you like mayo. But I'm gonna cut these up, and we're gonna kind of julienne them as a garnish for the wrap. So I'll put this here, and we'll kind of get into the cutting here. We'll cut off just the tips here. And as you can see, they're a little wet because I washed them. So you, again, gotta wash your greens, right? Wash your veggies. And if you want to, you could just take these, slice very thin discs, which I'm doing here, to keep it simple, right? Or you could take them, like I'm gonna do here now, is take these that are sliced down, and I'm gonna go one more time. And just kind of like cut fine, you could call them fine julienne, I guess you'd call them, but very thin slivers. And the radish gives it a nice kind of a peppery pop in the wrap, and it has really nice color. So let me cut a few more here. And by the way, everyone, I want to thank you all for your suggestions of recipes or dishes to make last week. It was really fun. We actually, you know, we sat and we replayed the video over and over to make sure we wrote down all of everyone's ideas. And so we'll be working through and you'll be featuring some of those ideas over the course of the series that we do here. I think that's actually pretty good. So I'm gonna grab a plate real quick. Put these on the side for now. We'll put these here. The next thing we're gonna do is some cucumber. Get that going.
Last week you used Best Foods mayonnaise, and
I
why
did.
do you like Best Food mayonnaise the best?
Because anything that starts with the word best, it's got to be the best. You know, it's funny. I think that's something that we all grew up with, right? But as mayonnaise goes, I think it just tastes the combination of what goes into it. Like mayonnaise is technically, right? It's acid or vinegar, egg yolks, oil, mustard, salt, pepper. That's pretty much what makes it. And when I learned how to make it from scratch, and then I thought about the best foods that I grew up eating, I think it's a perfect match. And so I think it's what we use in Hawaii we grew up with. And again, I think it's east of the Rockies. It's called Hellman's, but it's just it's just a great flavor. Now I am using more Japanese mayonnaise these days. Kewpie Mayo is what it is the brand, and it's sweeter. But I don't use like Miracle Whip, and Miracle Whip is not mayonnaise. It's considered dressing, and it's sweet. So I think if you're thinking about Miracle Whip versus Best Foods, they're two completely different categories. I haven't tried other. I guess I could explore other mayo, but I think Best Foods delivers from flavor and consistency, right? The consistency is perfect for when I need it to make salads or when you're spreading it to make a sandwich. It holds well. So that's why we like Best Foods, or I like Best Foods. Okay, I'm gonna take some of, I'm not gonna do all this cucumber, but we're gonna go ahead and prep some of this. We're gonna thin slice it for the wrap. And again, I guess we call it striping it. I'm not taking all of the outer skin off, just some of it for color and just to take some of the thicker skin off, so you have a little bit of thick, thin, and it's a textural experience. I'm gonna use this piece here. We'll save this for later. I'm gonna cut it in half, and again, I'm gonna scrape out the seeds. You could leave the seeds, but I'm taking them out because I don't want that pulpy stuff inside my in the wrap. So we'll scrape that out. Now, if I was gonna make namasu, I would probably leave the seeds in. But in this application, I really just want the fleshy part of the cucumber. Okay. I'm gonna cut these in half. I'm thinking about the size of the lettuce wrap, and I don't want it to be too big, so that's why I'm cutting them approximately 1.5 inches. Okay. And then I'm just gonna slice them very thin. One thing you might notice is I'm not really putting a lot of force. I'm not having to really push the knife really hard, and I just sharpened my knife this weekend. But I wanted to mention that because I want you all to know that it's very important to have a sharp knife. And some people say, oh, if I have a sharp knife, it's like I might cut myself. The thing about having a dull knife is you might cut yourself. And the reason why I'm saying that is the more dull the knife, the more you have to force the knife, which means you have less control, which you run the risk of cutting yourself. The sharper the knife, like I'm putting look at this, look at the effort. I'm not trying very hard, and it's cutting, right? But you want to have a very sharp knife. The sharper the knife, the better. You're gonna have better knife. You're gonna have better cuts, and it's actually safer.
A viewer by the same name as you wants to know what kind of knife you're using.
Well, Keoni, I'm using a global, and I really like this knife. And it's, you know, the funny thing is I always wanted one, and when I was working in kitchens, I did not have a global. as I was learning how to cook, I did not have a global because I could not afford one. I was using Victorinox and Dexter, which are very good knives. They're Swiss knives, and they work really, really well. The blade is softer, so it's easier to sharpen, but it dulls faster. And you know, now I'm able to afford a knife like this, and it's a great knife. It's stainless steel, really sharp. I believe this is I think it's an 8.5-inch knife, but it just the balance is good and it's light. But the metal is very, it's stainless steel, so it's a really hard metal. It doesn't dull easily, and I can really get in there and work with it. So if you can and you want to and you're into cooking, I think it's definitely worth the splurge. Okay, we're gonna do some peanuts here, and there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can chop them. I'll also show you. I have this is, by the way, that's my global, expensive, and here's my Chinese cleaver, Chinatown, $5. So you gotta, just gotta be, it's the right knife for the right application, right? And I really like this knife too, and it was inexpensive. But so I'm cutting these up. I want it to be small pieces, and I'm just rocking my cleaver on here, and see how it's breaking these up. So I'm making nice peanut pieces. The other way you can do it is to go in here like this. You might ask yourself, like, what's the trade-off, right? So as you can see, the other ones I did are a little bit duller because as I've smashed them, the oils have come out. They're kind of like a rougher cut. Using the blade this way takes longer, but I'm getting a more precise cut. The blade is cutting through the nuts. So you guys can make your decision about how and which way you want to do it. For something like this, I would just take my knife and just go for it like I did the other way, because I would be done already, and here I am still cutting some more peanuts this way. But if you don't have a Chinese cleaver, I would say everyone go buy a Chinese cleaver, because besides good for doing what I'm cutting and using it to really chopping rough things, this is the part I love about this cleaver. It's a great scraper. It's a great bench scraper. And I use it all the time to scrape my cutting board.
How often do you sharpen your knives?
Sharpening the knives really depends. I mean, I'll sharpen them when I start to feel like I'm really having to push on the knife and I'm not getting that same glide. Or like, to me, the test is like tomatoes, bell peppers, that waxy skin. If my knife isn't sliding right through that, it tells me I got to sharpen them. And so it depends, because if you don't cook very often, it might be a year. But if you're cooking every weekend, every day, it'll be more frequent. I would say, I don't know, every 3 months to 6 months, depending on how frequently you use your knife. But the real test is really how the knife is reacting, right? If it's cutting the way you want, if it's not, if it's getting drag, or you have to really work to get through those waxy skin type items. So here, a great example. We're gonna cut some of this. If I were to pull my knife and I felt that it's resisting, then I would want to sharpen it. But see how I'm not even pushing hard, and see how easily it goes through. And if I can make very thin slices without trying hard.
And you use a sharpening stone?
I do use a sharpening stone. I have a steel and I have 2 sharpening stones, and 2 different grits. So it's like a medium and a fine. The medium kind of really cuts the blade to get it the way I want, and the honing stone, the fine one, really polishes, and it gets really, 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 really sharp. Okay, so we're gonna start. So here's all the ingredients that we have that I'm sort of prepping for the finished product. Now we'll start moving into the prep for the sauteing. I wanted to show you 2 things. One is, like, if you're in a rush and you really want to get this thing on the fly, you can go to the store, and we have stir fry cut, which is different pieces they have, and the sizing works good. I'm gonna open this up so you can see, but they're smaller pieces. They're 1.5 inches, 2 inches, thin cut, really good to use, and they're great on the fly. The difference is you're kind of at the mercy of what the meat guys want to put in there, right? And there's always going to be high quality meat in there, but the different cuts may vary. And so I want to also show you, if you want to do it yourself, you could do a different cut. And one of the cuts I would say that I like to use is, we call it boneless short ribs in the store. And this is, again, all the meat, all the beef that we offer is certified Angus beef, right? It's premium choice certified Angus beef, which means it's USDA choice. And the product that we are using, if it's considered certified Angus beef, has much tighter specs, which means you're going to get a much more consistent eating experience, more flavor, and depending on the cut you're using, it has better marbling. That's going to give you a much tender eating experience. But in this case, I'm using boneless short ribs, and boneless short ribs come off of the chuck plate, okay? And chuck is really flavorful, and it's a really good value cut. Now the boneless short rib here, as you can see, also has a nice, it has some nice marbling. It also has some nice cartilage or connective tissue here, but it's also going to break down as you saute it, and it's going to be a tender eating experience. So this is one of those pieces that I like to use. There's another side cut that you might be familiar with. It's called, well, kalbi cut or flanking cut, and it's an offshoot when you look at the cattle. But if you think about what kalbi is like, or pulehu short ribs, this is a cut that is next to where they're getting those pieces from. So you're gonna get a nice, flavorful, tender eating experience if you're gonna be using this, and it's a good value. So this is what I'm gonna cut some just so you can see, and then we're gonna use the other stir-fry pieces that I made here. And so you can see that this is probably 3/4 of an inch thick. The strips are kind of like what I'm looking for. I'm gonna cut it in half. And then I want to cut this halfway also. And what I'm going to cut, I'm going to put my hand here as a guide, okay? And I'm keeping my fingers up versus down. And then I'm going to just take my knife and quickly cut through here, okay? So we have, I'm trying to even out the slices here. Like that. And then I'm just gonna take my blade down and cut thin strips. And a lot of the reason why chefs and cooks, like the whole why do it by scratch? Why do, you know, it's about knowing what you're working with and control, right? In this example, I know exactly what cut of meat I got, and I'm gonna be able to know what kind of experience I'm gonna get because I've chosen a cut of meat specifically for what I'm gonna do this.
Could you do a chuck eye roast?
I gotta check a chuck eye. I gotta go look. You could use a chuck eye roast for this, but see, the thing I would say is a chuck eye roast is, you know, it's a big cut of meat, and if you're gonna buy a bigger cut of meat like that, it's designed to be roasted. So you could. It's just gonna be more work too because you're gonna have to cut the whole thing down. But it could work. I mean, in this example, you can use less expensive cuts of meat to make a delicious dish. So yeah, I mean, you could, but then you got more work to do because it's a big piece of meat you got to cut. You could buy a chuck roast too, and then you're gonna have to cut the whole thing down. But if the price point's right and you have the time, yeah, go for it. Okay, so we got some garlic here that we're gonna break down, and I'm gonna show you like the way I like to do this. Right, smash it. And that's why this is great, because I can really get in there, break it down, and take it and do a quick chop.
Did you cut the meat against the grain or with the grain? Does it matter?
Okay, so for this example here, the grain here, you can see this piece is already cut against the grain, because you can see all the cuts. If it was, the grain is going this way. Well, this actually, this particular cut, it goes like a lot of different ways, but I cut it this way, and I cut it straight down. So when I cut it this way, I was cutting against the grain, and then when I was straight up and down, this is against the grain, and this was with the grain. So I kind of did it both ways. But in this example, to your point, it doesn't really matter because I'm cutting small strips. But look at this. You can kind of see the grain, right? Here, I'll put in the light. You see the grains here, and I cut. So part of it's cut against and part of it's with. what really counts is like if you're doing something like a flank, you really, and that's easy to see the grain. When you're cutting that, you want to go against the grain. Or if you're doing a London broil, things like that, where it's a leaner cut, you kind of cook it more medium, rare, medium, and you got to cut it against the grain to make sure it's going to be tender. In this case, when we're cutting small little pieces, even one way or the other, you're going to cut it against the grain. So it doesn't really, to your point, it doesn't really necessarily matter in this particular application. But if it was a bigger roast, yeah, you want to kind of cut against the grain because it helps give you a more tender eating experience because you're cutting through all those fibers, yeah. So garlic will go in here. Then we're gonna do some ginger, like we've done before in the past, right? I'm gonna take a piece of this. Since it's a big piece, I'm gonna peel it first. Let me take this piece off here quickly. Then I'll scrape the skin off so that I can maximize the yield. It smells really nice. It's a nice piece of ginger. But you see how much we don't have a whole lot of waste there, right? Then we're gonna go ahead and cut this up. And so back to the grain question too, just so we know, this is where the grain is going on this piece of ginger, right? So I am gonna start by cutting it against the grain, because of the same reason why you want to cut against the grain on beef if you can. It's about shortening the fibers. Then I'm going to shingle the pieces here. And then I'm going to cut them down. So this is going to give you a really nice sort of a julienne. And when you're cutting, you want to be relaxed. You don't want to be tense. If you have a very sharp knife, you can be relaxed. Okay. Now, if I wanted to have it, I want to have it diced like this, I could just go and rough chop it, right? But I wanted to show you how to make julienne. I take my julienne and turn them one more time. Like that. Then I take my knife again. And after a after a very long day of work and being on Zoom calls all day, taking phone calls, this is very therapeutic. You get your knife and just kind of like that. And you breathe. Breathe in, breathe out. And really just kind of like zone in on the swooshing sound of the blade. And think about the beautiful beef and greens from Lanai that you're going to be enjoying in about 15 minutes. Okay, so, but that's kind of like, that's the ginger there, okay? Now, in the recipe, I did say Hawaiian chili peppers or Thai chilies, and guess what? Sometimes we don't have them in the store, and sometimes you might not be able to find them. So the next best thing I found was a jalapeno, and we're going to use that, okay? I'm just checking my recipe real quick. The Thai chili, yep. So I'm going to use some of it. I'm not going to use all of it. That's all I'm using. It's going to give you some nice pepper flavor. And the thing you want to be mindful of, if you like it's really hot, this is where the hot stuff is. This pith and the seeds, that's where the heat's at. So if you want to really accentuate the heat, then that you can leave that in. But typically, I get enough heat by just using the outside, and you get some nice pepper flavor. Okay. And then again, this is a good test of my knife if it's sharp or not, because this is that skin that I was talking about. If your knife is not sharp, it's going to be like you're always just sliding off, right? But let's see how sharp my knife is if it's good. You guys can hear that, right? Okay. So we have our peppers, and again, if you have a Hawaiian chili pepper, great. If you have a red Thai chili, great. You know, hey, if you're really into it and you have a ghost pepper or habanero, more power to you. But I think this is what we're looking for, some nice pepper heat. Okay. We're gonna.
So can you prep all of this the day before?
A lot of it you can prep the day before. This can be prepped the day before. I think most of this can be prepped the day before. You just got to keep these in a very tight airtight container. The peanuts or they get stale. The beef you can prep the day before. The only thing you're going to run into is it'll oxidize. It might not be as bright red as this, but you're going to saute it and you'll be fine. It is kind of a lot of prep, right? Okay, so lemon. I want the juice, and so what I'm doing here is I'm rolling this lime, and I'm pushing it down because what I'm doing is I'm trying to get all those tight fibers in there to loosen up so I can get all the juice out. And if you can see, like I'm squeezing it, it's very like mushy. You want it to be mushy. That's how you're gonna get the maximum amount of juice out, okay? And you can see that already, that juice, see that juice wants to just like, it's like, let me into this beef, okay? All right, so what else do we need here? Mint and basil and green onions, right? So the mint, I'm gonna take some off. You can use mint or basil, or you can use both. And that, to me, I like the mint because it has a mint and lime with radish. To me, it feels like Southeast Asian cuisine. So I'm gonna push these together. You can roll them up if you want to make it easier. And again, a lot of knife work in this one. And yes, there's a lot of ingredients, but if this kind of style of cuisine tends to have a lot of ingredients, but I know you guys all have them at home already. Okay, so we'll put that here. I'm gonna move my limes. Put this in here. Green onions. Now here's the thing. When I used to cut green onions, I'd be like, I would start here and go all this way. Then I realized, you know what? If I just cut the green onion in half, and then I cut it in half, and then I just stack them like this, and that was like 3 cuts, right? And now I'm gonna, makes my life really easy now. I have a lot less work to do because I'm maximizing every cut, right?
Can you freeze chili pepper and then use a frozen chili pepper?
You can. That's a good one. That one freezes good. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's do a check. We got beef, got garlic. That's good. Ginger's good. Chilies, brown sugar I have. Fish sauce on the other side, shoyu, lime, sesame oil we got. I got mint, green onions, salt, pepper to taste. Okay, great. Okay, let's go on the other side here. We'll start to bring this together. I should have turned my my heat on. Tell you what, let's heat this up. I'll put this here right now. We have all our ingredients here. We're gonna do the stir fry piece, but let's go make the sauce real quick. Okay, the sauce here is very simple, and it's a lot of it's to taste. But the key ingredient we want to start with is warm water, and because we're gonna put sugar in there, the sugar, it melts better in the warm water. So the recipe I'm calling for is half a cup of warm water. I'll put some in here real quick. And I'm just eyeballing this. You can do the taste. So this is, we'll call that a half a cup of warm water. Okay. Then we're gonna put some sugar in here, granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons. And again, this is eyeballing, right? So we'll call that 1, 2. Let's go ahead and stir that up so it can start to melt. We want to put some lime juice in here. Now I'm gonna use the lime that I already rolled. I want to make another one, but since this is ready, see all that juice? This is how you can get the juice out a lot. Use a spoon, push it into the lime. If you don't have one of those, fancy juicers, and you just twist it, this will help get all that juice out. Squeeze that. We'll do another one. Now, oh, I need some garlic, so I'll take some of my garlic that we did here, throw that in here. A green onion went in there. It's okay. I don't have, like I said, I didn't have the fresh chili, so I have to do some dry chilies in this one. I chose the dry chilies just because I think it gives it a nice color versus putting more of that jalapeno in there. And then a little bit of fish sauce and shoyu. So we'll put that in here real quick. And notice that I am using water. And the important thing about this is if you made this sauce at home and you've like not done a style like this, you're like just putting soy sauce or shoyu and fish sauce, it's probably too salty for you. And this is what I think looks really good now. This looks like a great, you could use this for a lot of different things. You could use it for like, fried egg rolls or some rolls or spring rolls. This is a good dipping sauce. It's a good all-purpose sauce. So we'll put this on the side for now. And let's go see what our pan is looking like. Okay, so we've got our pan heating up. And remember, one of the things that we always talk about when we're cooking is you want to preheat your pan because you want to make sure it's nice and hot, and you don't want the product in here to just simmer and turn gray. The other thing is, if the pan is small and you have a lot of product, you want to make sure that you're not overcrowding it, which is going to drop the temperature too fast. And so I have a bowl here. We've got, I have a neutral oil. You see it's starting to smoke, which means nice and hot. One thing when you're cooking too, if something's too hot, don't hesitate to move it away from the heat, right? So I'm going to move it on the side right now because it is definitely hot. And I'm going to add a little bit of vegetable oil. I just wanted to glaze the bottom of the pan. You see how it's rippling already? You see that ripples? That's great. You're looking for that. And if you get little wisps of smoke, that's also really, really good. You can see how it's waving in the bottom of the pan. That's a great indicator, okay? So then I'm gonna put beef in a layer. You guys are so quiet today.
Terry wants to know what brand of fish sauce is your favorite?
I used to use a lot of, I think it's called Tiparos, Tiparos, something like that. We had this in the store. Well, I don't think we have it anymore, but I bought some of this. Is also very good, but I think Tiparos is good. I'm trying to think of there other brands. That one's very widely available too, right? But that's what I will use. The small bottle. It kind of looks the same size as this, kind of rounded with a kind of an orange top on there. I'm gonna do a quick toss.
And you don't need to season the beef?
I'm not gonna season. I'm gonna season at the end if it needs it. But this, I'm gonna put this in, right? And these two things are gonna. That's plenty salt in there to season the beef. I'm trying to get some color on here. You see that color there? That's kind of what we're looking for, okay? One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to move the pan too much. You want to let it sit in the pan, because if you keep moving the pan, it won't color. So I'm going to let it do its thing. I'm going to go for one more toss, and we're going to start adding all of our ingredients here. Let's look at this. Let's see how that goes for a little bit. I'll read my notes here because I'm getting old. Okay, so the next thing we want to put in here is ginger and garlic, because you want those aromats in. And I didn't put them in the beginning because they would have burned by now. I'm going to toss this. I want the fragrance to come out and the flavor. I don't want it to burn. Now it's starting, the flavors are starting to go. The essential oils are going there. You can smell the ginger and the garlic. Next thing, we're going to put a little bit of the sugar. If I put the sugar in too early, it would have burned in the pan. So it's a light coating of that. A little bit of shoyu. A little bit of the fish sauce. Be careful with the fish sauce because it's salty. Just a little bit. I'm gonna add my lime juice. A dash of the sesame oil. Toss real quick. It's a very quick process. You don't want to cook it too much or else the beef may get tough. Then I'm gonna add the greens. The greens go last because they're delicate. And they're delicate, so if you put them too early, all of that fresh vibrancy gets lost. Okay, so that's what kind of that looks like. If you want, then so you can taste it. I'm gonna taste one real quick. And if you need to, if you wanted to, then you add a little bit of salt then, a little pepper. And we'll put it in this pan here. I'm gonna do a quick rinse and we'll do another quick batch. Now one thing to think about, and we have not, usually someone's asking me about this by now, but if you wanted to, you could use chicken, you could use ground beef, you could switch out the different proteins, you could do tofu, you could do mushrooms if you don't want to have a meat protein. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about this. Again, we'll put a little bit of oil in here. We'll let that heat up. I'll do a quick wipe of the stove. One thing that's we do all the time in the kitchens when we're working is we're constantly cleaning and constantly rearranging and wiping, because cooking can be such a messy process if you're not organized and clean. It just gets out of control. But again, see, I'm not crowding the pan. It's a very even layer. You see how you can still see space in the pan. Go for a quick toss. Yeah. While it's browning some more, we'll put a little bit of sugar in there, quick coating. Toss a little bit more. We'll hit a little bit of shoyu. Fish sauce.
Keoni,
Yeah.
Priscilla wants to know why you had to rinse the pan, because you're using the same seasonings, right?
Yeah. That's a very good question. The reason I rinsed the pan was when I added the sugar and the shoyu, it glazed the pan and it created a coating on there. And so if I hadn't washed it and put it straight on the pan, all that would have burned and turned black by now, and it would have burned the beef. So I had to clean it out. The only time that I would consider not washing the pan if I was cooking other things or a different dish would be if the item that's coming out of the pan keeps the pan very clean and it's not glazed. All of this, see all this coating, this stuff here? All of that, if I had put it back on, it would have just burned and it'd be smoking, and I would have really just burnt all of the second batch. So if I was gonna do another batch in here, I would go back and wipe the pan again. I don't go and do a complete, like full on scrub it, clean it, but I wanna make sure I get all that extra sugar off so that it doesn't burn. Okay, so we'll take that off. Here, see, this is what I'm talking about. You see all that right there? All of that, if I had left it on here, if I leave it on here, it's gonna glaze and it'll turn to, the sugar will start to brown like that. See that? And then it will start to burn. So I cannot do another batch with this in here without burning that sugar. And that is why we don't do that. Okay, so we have, I'm gonna put some of our sauce in a nice glass bowl for presentation. Then I'm going to move some of this on the side. So you can see the beef that we have here, and that's looking really delicious. Pork would work good too. So I have the beef here. I have the our garnishes here. And then what I would do is you put this out on the table, and I would take another plate. And so here are our Sensei Farms greens, right? And again, no need to wash, hydroponically grown, super clean, super fresh, ready to go. And this is why I like these, because see that it's perfect for making a wrap. Now you could take these pieces off and go like that. Looking at this one, maybe I'd break this a little bit. You're trying to find the nice leaves that you can make a nice wrap with, right? This is good as it is. I'm taking the thick parts off, so I see like that. So when I'm making food for people, this is the part that the guests will get. This is the part that I get to eat later on. That's my dinner. These are the pieces that I would use here. And so what you do, right, is you put these out on the table, and then everyone kind of can make their own. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make one, and then I'm gonna get to enjoy one. Okay, but this is kind of what it looks like. Are there any questions about the wrap before I go in and destroy one of these things here?
Yes. How hot was the stove that you're cooking the meat?
The stove, I would say you want to go medium high to high. Start off really high, and as you get to know your stove and your pan, you might want to go a little bit less, but you want it to be high because stir fries require high heat. The goal is a stir fry or a saute is high heat because it's quick cooking method. The pieces of beef are small and they cook quickly, but you want caramelization. So you got to have very high heat. You want, as soon as you put the fat in the pan, you want it to ripple, and you want to get some wisps of smoke and get it right in there and go. If it's not hot enough, you put it in, there's no sound, it steams in the pan, and you're just not gonna have a good eating experience.
Okay. Can you use chili pepper water instead of the pepper?
You could use chili pepper water, and I have chili pepper water here. The reason why I would, you could put chili pepper water in the sauce here. I think that'd be good. I wouldn't put you could put some chili pepper water here in the beef, but the problem is this liquid here, it dilutes everything and it waters everything down. So I maybe put it in here, but not put it in the stir fry. But you could use some of this too, some sriracha, which I think is great. And I'm going to use some of that in this.
A viewer from the mainland wants to know what the difference is between aloha shoyu and regular shoyu.
Ooh. Okay, so many would argue that aloha shoyu is regular shoyu, and so aloha shoyu is shoyu that is made locally here. It's a local brand of shoyu, and so just like all other things, right? They have their own proprietary recipe. They have their methodology for making it, but ultimately, it is shoyu, which is fermented, brewed soybeans that they're extracting and making a sauce from. I think that you have to decide if that's what you like, their particular brand, and that's great. In my experience, I personally I've talked about this before. I like Yamasa. It's a Japanese shoyu. I like the brewed flavor that it has. So it's a personal preference. But Aloha Shoyu is a local shoyu brand, and it's very popular in Hawaii, and people love it. So you can use it. You can totally use it for different applications. I think a lot of people use it too because it's a little bit milder. So it's good for marinades and things like that, where some of the other shoyus might be more bolder.
And is that Thai basil that you're using?
Sorry. This is regular basil. If I had Thai basil, I would use it. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, like we talked about before, when you're cooking, don't let a recipe completely stop you if you can't get exactly what. And that's like I said, I couldn't get the chili pepper, I couldn't get the Thai chili pepper, and so I used the jalapeno pepper. So it's still in the same, it's giving me the same relative experience. So I don't have Thai basil, which is it tastes like basil. It's a more sturdy green. In my opinion, a little bit more pungent than regular sweet basil. But in this application, I think sweet basil will work just fine. And I have some here, and I'll just put some on there as a garnish. Okay. All right. So here's what we got. I'm gonna show you everyone here how to make one, and then I'm gonna say goodbye to everyone because I'm gonna start eating one, and then it's gonna be a big mess. But just a couple reminders. Next week, no class, everyone. You guys have October fall break. We'll be back in class the following week, and our class schedule will be first and third Wednesday of every month. We're looking forward to seeing everyone. And don't forget, just everyone mark your calendars. Our Kahala market will be opening soon. Kahala Market by Foodland, and so we're really excited. All of you that are on Oahu, or if you might be coming to Oahu, please, if you're going to be around, come visit us. We're going to be taking reservations on Open Table to come and check out the store. It will have a restaurant called Et Al, which is going to be really cool, new American cuisine featuring local ingredients and inspired by local flavors. Really fun. So please come visit us. And with that, I'm going to dive into this lettuce wrap. I'll show you how to do it. And everyone, let's support Sensei Farms. So you take your green. I like this one here, and then you kind of make you put it in your hand. Okay. Then you take the best parts of the beef, and you put it in here. Kind of like making like a burrito, right? Put that beef there. You put a little bit of the refreshing cucumber, some nice peppery radish, a little bit of sauce, that vinegary acidity. We'll put a little bit of the peanuts for texture and meatiness and more umami and crunch. I like heat, so I have some sriracha. I'm gonna put a quick line in here.
And then John wants to know what a good adult beverage pairing would be with this dish.
Ooh, you guys are good. And you know, I was thinking about this. I was gonna make a drink for you guys tonight. Maybe next one I'll make you guys a drink. But I would say, if you're gonna make a cocktail, I would do like a really good vodka or gin-based cocktail, something that has its herbaceousness, that has lime juice in there, or there's some citrus in there. Citrus notes would be really good. A lot of ice, really cold. You could do like a mojito, or you could do like a mojito or a, and put lemongrass in it, or do a version of a what's the one with the ginger ale or ginger beer? Come on, everyone. A mule would be great. Beer, awesome. Beer would be really good. So like a light beer would be good with this. So I think those would really be good. If you're gonna do wine, really crisp, go for crisp. The Gewürztraminer and the Rieslings go great with all Asian food, but Sauvignon Blanc would be really great. Or if you're gonna do Chardonnay, I would pick something that it doesn't have as much oak. So neutral oak or stainless steel fermented. And with that, I'm gonna go in for the bite because I didn't eat lunch today. And I will see you folks the week after next week. Thanks, everyone.